Hi, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the daily Rambam Shiur, lesson 152, Hilchois Klei Hamikdash ve'Dovid Bisk, from chapter 6 until 8. Every morning in our prayers, right before Ezehu Mekoimon, we have a special prayer where Rebbein Ha'olamim, you have commanded us to bring the daily Korban Tomid, the offering of the Tomid, and the Kohanim, they should be involved in their service, the Levim with their song, and Israel b'ma'amodom. Literally, the word ma'amad is a position, or more precise, a standing position. Today's first topic of the first lesson of today covers this concept of ma'amod. There is a rule: when a person brings a offering, he must be present while the offering is brought. How do I know? We say every morning, and soon we will say right before the afternoon prayer, Tishmeru lehakriv li b'moyadoi. My offerings that you are about to bring, you got to guard. How you can guard something when you and the object you are guarding are distant from each other? So the posuk itself implies that you must be present there while the offering is being brought. The daily Tomid, which used to be brought morning and afternoon in the temple, was a Korban Sibur. It was the entire offering of the entire Jewish people. Each and every member of the Jewish community worldwide was a partner in this offering. There is no way that the entire Jewish nation will be standing there. So for that reason, they were appointing representatives. The early prophets, they selected amongst the Jewish people upright, righteous, and God-fearing people, that they will be there as the representatives of the Jewish people. They have divided the Israelim, the Jews, into 24 groups, and each and every week, while there is an entire base of a group of Kohanim who used to actually conduct the services of the daily offerings in the temple, used to be a group of Israelim who used to be both. Some of them, they were traveling to Jerusalem, and they were actually standing there while the offering used to be brought. Those who lived far, they used to gather in their own cities. If the actual local synagogue was able to contain them, was fine. Otherwise, they used to go lirechoivo shel ir, to the plaza of the city, to the outside, and they were conducting over there an entire ritual of prayers and reading the Torah. And by the way, this is so relevant of today because there is such, anybody who follows the news from Israel, we see an internal conflict in the city of Tel Aviv, where some elements are opposing a traditional prayer according to the guidelines of Halacha should be conducted in the public domain. I guess they have not learned yet the daily Rambam. Had they have learned the daily Rambam, they will be obviously certain that this is already an old tradition that dating back from the first prophets of Israel, where they have conducted this concept of Maimod, where in the center of the city on a daily basis, because every day of the year we have this Ma'amodos, where they used to, what they used to do actually. So a typical daily schedule First of all, they were fasting. Each and every day of the week, they used to fast, besides Sunday and Friday. Friday as the honor of Shabbos. Sunday, in order they should not come from the pleasure of Shabbos into a state of fasting. The Rambam in a different place comments that this may endanger physically a person when he goes, the shock of the body from excessive consumption of food into a state of hunger is potentially endangering the body. By the way, it goes also the opposite. When a person goes from a excessive pleasure into a state of fasting is also a form of a shock. According to some of the commentators, there is a Jewish custom that on the 9th day of Tishrei, which will be this year next Sunday, will have to eat. And not only we gotta eat, but the person needs to eat a double portion for the 9th day of Tishrei and for the 10th day of Tishrei. And it says anybody who eats on the 9th day of Tishrei, the Almighty views it as he actually fasted on the 9th and the 10th. There are many explanations why. One of the explanations, due to the torture a person experiences when he is suddenly jumping from a state of excessive pleasure of food into a state of fast and vice versa, this itself a form of torture. So this excessive torture that he experienced from the shock makes it as equal as he actually fasted on the 9th and the 10th. It's one of the explanation, which is very much in line. By the way, the one who take coming, I don't remember who, he brings a proof take from the Anshe Maimod, from the people who were not fasting on the Sunday, just one of the reasons in order to avoid, to prevent them from any form of torture. In those days, they used to conduct 4 prayers. In addition to Shachris Mincho, they had Musaf and Ne'ilo, like we have on Yom Kippur. They read twice in Shachris and in Musaf passages from the Torah. The passages, each and every day of the week, they have read the creation that took place in these days and the next day. So for example, on Sunday, they read from the Torah those passages from the beginning, from Chumash Bereshis, that speaks about what God Almighty created on Sunday and on Monday. On Monday, they read the creation of Monday and Tuesday, and so on. Each and every day they read the creation of that day. The Rambam doesn't explain, but the Talmud explains the reason in order to demonstrate that without offerings, there is no hope, there is no chance for the existence of heaven and earth. Bischus hakorbonos, in the merit of the korbonos of the offerings, the Shomayim v'oretz, heaven and earth, they are in operational mode. Otherwise, not necessarily. It is also mentioned in the Talmud, although the Rambam is not mentioning it, that they had special prayers as well each and every day of the week. For example, on Sunday they prayed for the livelihood. Other days, for example Wednesday, they prayed for the disease similar to the pandemic, that children should not be exposed and suffer from it. And the reason, because the way it's spelled in the Torah, that on Wednesday the lights, me'orot in Hebrew, means source of lights, but the way it's spelled without a vav, that can be read like me'ero, like a curse, so which implies that Wednesday is a very vulnerable day. For that reason, on Wednesday they were praying as well that no askelo, no type of disease would fall into the children. Was some exceptional days that no fast was conducted, and also the entire procedure of reading the Torah and those prayers were not in effect. For example, days like Hanukkah, or days where they used to bring a korban ha'etzim, where a family was volunteering to go to the forest and collect woods in order to supply for the fire, constant fire that used to burn on top of the altar. So that day used to be a festive day, and no fasting and no rituals of the ma'amodos used to take place. Also throughout the entire week, besides Thursday, haircut and laundry were forbidden. Reason, they should not push and postpone their needs for the time that they must be dedicating and focused in their avodah. Everybody knows in Russia, начальники никогда не опоздают, но всегда они задерживаются. So in the second chapter we're speaking about начальниks. They call it in English officers. So in the temple they used to have 15 different начальники and officers that they were appointed for the following. First of all, someone was in charge for the daily schedule. Make sure that everything runs according to schedule. A second officer used to be in charge of opening and closing the gate when at times. Another one, we have learned already yesterday, someone was in charge to inspect if the guards are doing their job. Another one used to make sure that the musical instruments are being conducted accordingly. Then someone was in charge to do the lotteries, because each and every service in the temple, since was very few of services, but everybody wanted to have the merit to get involved. So the way that they were doing it, by a form of a lottery. So someone was in charge to inspect, to watch, and make sure that everything runs smoothly. Then the actual korbanos, the actual offerings, whether private, mostly private, when a person had his own obligation to bring a bird offering, a flower offering. So in order to smooth the process of purchasing the bird, they made a system where, similar to type of tickets, a person used to go to the casa, to the registry, and purchase a ticket. With the ticket, he used to go to the treasurer, and the treasurer used to give him in exchange to the tickets the birds, the offering that he needs. By the end of the day, they were matching the amount of money that was collected and the amount of birds that were purchased, and they were making a clearing operation. And there is an entire procedure when the tickets and the offerings don't match. So they wait if somebody gonna go and claim, if it's only one, so then it's clearly that he is the one. They made sure also to stamp on each and every ticket that particular day. The reason, to avoid possibilities where people going to hold the tickets and wait until they will be valuable when the prices of birds will skyrocket and make some speculante shtuki. Yeah? So for that reason, they avoided it. Someone was in charge also on the baking of the loaf lechem aponim, on the action of the ktoret, of the incense preparation. Someone was also in charge of medical needs, because we know that the kohanim, the priest, they used to stand without shoes on a cold floor and eat constantly meat, lots of it, and exposed to deterioration in their health. So a special doctor was consistently maintaining their health condition, should not go off the charts. This is the general officers that were appointed in order to maintain the daily activities in the temple. When he is mentioning those mesholerim, someone who was in charge on the musical instrument, he is mentioning also the amount of tkiois. Everybody is familiar with tkiois, with the sounds, but we know sounds of shofar. In the temple, they used to blow via a trumpet, and the minimum amount of tkiois they were producing per day were 21. 3 at the times of opening the gates, 9 for the morning tomid, for the morning offering, public offering, and additional 9 for the evening offering. Obviously, in days when they have musaf, like for example Rosh Chodesh and Pesach and other holidays, so they were blowing way more. At the times that they had Nisu Hayayin, Nisu Hamayim, they kept adding more. On a weekly basis, right before Shabbos, they used to blow in the trumpets as well, in order to remind people that Shabbos is about to come. In the final chapter of today's lessons, we're going into details about the special garments of the priests. They had 3 kinds of garment. One for the high priest, he used to wear 8 different type of garments. Then on Yom Kippur, 4 out those 8 he used to wear only at the Yom Kippur service. In fact, throughout the day, he changed 5 times back and forth from Big Day Lovon, from white garments, the high priest, into golden garments. Golden garments, it's not all of them were gold. It's a reference to his regular high priest type of garment, which were consisting of 8 types of garment. Soon we're going to mention towards the end. All of them, they were made out of a pishton, which is flax, besides the avnate. The avnate is the belt, which were basically mixed both semel, linen, and wool. It was the only exception, although for us it is a sin, as we have learned in the Hilchos of Klei. For a Kohen Gadol in the times of the avoido, at the times of the service, it used to be a mitzvah. And in the Torah, we have learned that the Torah mentioning the idea, a essay, that when it comes to do a positive commandment, so it pushes away the negative commandment. So obviously, when he is involved in the avodah, in the service, he used to wear this garment. Outside the service, it is forbidden for him to have those garments. They were always needed to be in a honorable format. So when they were getting old, they were turning them into wicks for the menorah. For the pants of the Kohanim, they used to turn them into a burning agents while the Simchas Bes HaShoevo, the great Simcho, we know that in the times of Sukkot used to be a great festivity at the end, at the end of Mitzvah Yom Tov, at the end of the Yom Tov of Sukkot, they used to have a great festivity called Simchas Beis HaShoevo. Used to be so much light that the entire Jerusalem, a lady was able to separate her grains through the light of Simchas Beis HaShoevo. That's how powerful the light was. So where they took the burning agent for this light, they took it from the pants, the old pants of the Kohanim who used to serve. The Rebbe once explained in a Farbrengen, Rebbe used to have a tradition in the early years on Simchas Beis HaShoevo throughout Sukkot to Farbring with Bnei HaYeshivos, with yeshiva students. And there is a big treasures of audio from those Farbrengens, very precious one. And in one of those Farbrengen, he explains what was the idea. The idea is they were demonstrating a state of purity and modesty, that even their pants, which typically a pants is there to cover the person, even they maintain such a high level of intense holiness that they deserved to illuminate the entire city of Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim is not only a physical, a geographical territory, but Yerushalayim is a state of Iras Sholem, a state of God-fearing state. So for that reason, the pants were the garment that were chosen in order to display the level of holiness and modesty that they have achieved. It's an interesting explanation. I promise I will count which are those four garments. So first of all, they used to have a shirt, pants, hat, and avnet, and a belt. All of them they made out of linen, white. The only belt used to, as I've mentioned, mixed with wool. What was the golden garments of the Kohen Gadol? So on top of these four that we have just mentioned, in addition to what we have just mentioned, so he had me'il. Me'il is a very long, I would say, coat, and ephod is an apron. Choshen is where he had the 12 stones, where the name of the tribes were engraved in them, and he carried right on his chest. It used to be called Choshen. Then he had the tzitz. Tzitz is a golden piece that used to be on the top of his forehead, and the letters Kodesh Lashem, holy towards God, was engraved in them. It used to have a very special connection between the tzitz and the migbas, the hat that he was wearing, and used to be connected with a psil tcheles, with a fiber in a blue, sort of bluish color. And it was a very special way in the weaving of the fiber. Each and every one of those materials used to be weaved with 6 other fibers, so it was quite thick. Used to be also a difference between the hat of the Kohen Gadol and the Kohen Hedyot. While the Kohen Hedyot had a typical hat as we are wearing, the Kohen Gadol used to have a very long type of piece of material that he kept rolling around his head, I guess, in order for it to be possible to connect it to the tzitz in the proper way. So thank you very much, and Gmar Chesima Toivo, and a good Gebencht Yom.
Amen.